What's up, everybody? This is Craig Stout. Welcome to the Arrowhead Pride live stream, where we come to you every week doing the first episode of the AP Laboratory every week, the question and answer segment. With me, as always, my two compatriots in the Nerd Squad, Matt Lane, Kent Swanson. Maddie, we're going to start with you today. How we doing? How's today going?
Today's going pretty good. Life's going on. Life's getting there, getting settled in with having two kids now. You know, you have two hands, so two kids. That means you can't really do anything but have two kids. Like you have no life. I've gotten pretty good with my feet. Like I'm starting to look a little bit like a monkey. I can get the bottle out of the fridge with my toes. It's just kind of hard to get my foot up to feed the baby. So we're still working on that. If I had a tail, I think things would be going really good right now, guys.
I can tell you from our experience in the DMs, Maddie is a lot quieter right now. You can tell how busy Matt is right now. It's crazy. So he's either got to learn to tweet or DM with his toes, or teach the kids to transcribe his words for him or something like that.
My daughter would gladly send DMs to you guys, but it would be a bunch of poop emojis.
Oh, I am here.
I've heard worse. I mean, sometimes your contributions to the DMs anyway are poop emojis. Anyway.
See, I knew where that was going. That is Kent Swanson.
Give us a food take.
Kent, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Excited to be on episode 54.
Nailed it.
54.
54.
Yeah.
Well, this is why Craig's not in charge with naming things.
It's okay. At some point in time, everyone goes senile. Your memory's the first thing to go, Craig. Pull after your hair.
Who are you people? And what?
I was privileged enough to see Craig Stout this week. Actually, it was the highlight of my year. He dropped off a New Glarus, a sixer of New Glarus. It is the spotted cow from New Glarus, and it is exceptional. I had it. I was at Pete's house. We were filming during the draft season, and we got done filming, and Pete's like, "Hey, you want a beer?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" He had like a selection of beers, these random beers sitting in there, and he pulled this one out from Wisconsin, gave it to me, and this is the Spotted Cow. It's one of the most delightful beers I've ever drank in my entire life. And this handsome, bearded, redheaded, beautiful, tall man who is good at everything is also good enough and kind enough in his heart to drop a sixer off on his way home from visiting the North, because this beer is only available in Wisconsin. So,
it's
Craig, thank you so much.
Not
for
a problem, buddy.
My happiness.
Not a problem. I think we should get on with the show, because I'm frankly sick of hearing you gush about me. And so is everybody else.
This is the best part of this gig, is making Craig uncomfortable.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah.
You
did it.
It's definitely one of the best parts.
There's not much else we got going for us, so.
Oh, really?
Not particularly. How's everyone doing tonight, though? We got anything cracking in the DMs here?
The chat's going pretty good tonight so far.
We got 10-month-old eating trash. I can, that sounds about right.
In there.
Can agree on that.
Cameron Corwin says that Maddie's pipes are looking pretty swole. Yeah, that's usual, guys. That really is usual.
Some sacrifices have to be made with the two kids. We try to work out as much as possible, so I appreciate it, Cameron.
He had to sacrifice all the sleeves in his wardrobe for his children.
And Twitter DMs have gone to the wayside, so I can actually work out.
Yeah, it's really nice to have these things with Maddie, because we actually get to hear from Maddie now. So
it doesn't happen often. I'm aware.
No, it's times are changing, man. We're all and plus it's the off season,
and we totally understand.
We totally understand. We may be just playing to the bit a little bit. We totally get it. I mean, I remember just having one is hard. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that as well. But two,
Bryce Hall 2020, Bryce Hall 2019.
Is he entering the supplemental?
What? All of a sudden, we got somebody new to talk about. I got a film review to do.
If like Bryce Hall just jumped in tonight to the supplemental draft,
let's spend it. Round 1.
I would think about it. Actually, I would do it. I'd flat out do it. Screw it.
Definitely lots of Kodiak cakes, Cameron. A lot of Kodiak pancakes go down this way. Usually with peanut butter and bananas on them.
Okay, should we get going?
Yeah, we should get going. We got a good group in the chat right now. Let's get fired up and get the
36
podcast
people
started.
There's like an important topic that we should maybe lead off with too when we do this. Like something happened today, right?
We'll kick off the show with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, was there like like a space shuttle or something?
Yes.
Yes, that is it. You're so on point, Maddie. You are very aware.
I am very up to date on my current events, guys. There was an earthquake yesterday, maybe a couple days ago.
That was more than yesterday.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. My name's Kent Swanson. This is the AP Laboratory Mailbag Edition for the second week of July. I am joined, as always, by my two pals. You can find him on Twitter at Chief in Carolina. He is wearing no sleeves, per usual, on the live stream. Maddie Lane, how are the biceps doing today, my man?
The biceps are good. The sky was out, so the thighs were out. The suns were out, so the guns were out. And we're just celebrating a good USA Women's National Team victory.
Woo!
The Stars and Stripes brought it home. And speaking of stars, guys, 5-star reviews. We enjoy them. Kent loves them. He loves my transitions into this bit every single week. So we just got to keep it rolling. We're also joined by Craig Stout. Find him on Twitter at Barley Hop. How you doing tonight, big guy?
Hey, we're doing great. Nobody calls me big guy. Like I am the distinct opposite of big guy. So coming from you, especially, that come on, man, look in a mirror. You know better.
Listen, BJ Kissel is on the Craig Stout workout plan right now, so
vice
we're going to call you
versa.
big guy.
Vice versa, man. He's been on it for longer than I've been on mine. Yeah.
I gotta keep
down. He is down 30
We get a
pounds.
DM from Craig on vacation, first thing in the morning, like 4 a.m. my time. So it's like 3 a.m. in Minnesota where he's on vacation, just telling me how he just went on like 4 runs that morning or something because the weather was so nice outside. It was insane. This guy's a machine right now.
That was 3 in the afternoon, Maddie. I realized you got a new kid and your sleep schedule's off. It was 3 in the afternoon.
I'm just waiting for Craig to break the internet like BJ did a couple days ago, posting that selfie. I mean, whew.
I can't do that. It's not possible.
I beg to differ, my man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll probably start with this. We got new news on the Tyreek Hill situation. And 610 Sports Radio released the full audio, which I personally am incredibly grateful for. I think that was very important to this whole story.
Full audio of the Dubai conversation.
Sorry,
he and his fiance. Yes,
I think I'm probably assuming everybody's heard it by now, but it may not be true. And yeah. I would encourage everyone to make sure that you go seek out the full 11-minute conversation, that recording of Tyreek Hill and Crystal Espinal, and formulate your own opinions for yourself. I think that's important, especially at this time when we've got more information. I do want to make sure I shout out 610. I think they did an exceptional job handling this thing today, including reading the full police report, including going back and pulling the interview with KCTV5's reporter that they had on, who helped release this story when it first happened. I think if you can go back and find 610's download of basically all today, I think it's important for people to go ahead and listen to that, help formulate your own opinions. We're going to get some more news, here shortly, I'm sure, with Tyreek Hill and his suspension and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about that stuff more. But I would just say, make sure you get a chance to listen to this, formulate your own opinions. And we're probably just going to get going from there and just jump into the mailbag. We've got a lot of mailbag questions today. Thank you all for listening and asking your questions. We'll start with this one. A Hammy 87 asks, in what technical areas will Matt House's coaching most improve the linebacker corps?
I think the one area that they've already spoken to a lot is playing fast, getting downhill, getting to the gap rapidly, filling where they need to fill as quickly as possible. They've talked so much about how they had to read. BJ Kissel even talked about it on their podcast about having to kind of sit back and read the defensive linemen, kind of confirming some of the things that we've talked about on this podcast a couple of times. And I think that the way that these guys are going to play is a lot more downhill. They're going to trigger off of things quicker. They're going to get to the spot that they need to. And Matt House, I think, is simplifying reads, simplifying things that they need to do, getting a little more maybe back to basics. I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it definitely needed to happen based on what they did last year. And I think that House is kind of deconstructing some of these guys and getting them back to the point where they can play without having to think so damn hard about getting to where they need to go and just get there.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is kind of he's coming from Kentucky, where he's not dealing with five-star recruit after five-star recruit, especially at the linebacker position. So he had a great defense there in Kentucky for the last couple years. He's worked at other schools, the same thing, that aren't pulling consistent five-star recruits. So he's had to have a system that is able to streamline this process. Colleges have less time with players than the NFL does. So he's getting these guys, and he's just bringing a more simplified approach. He's able to make assignments crisper, more clean and clear, easy for them to understand. Even if the task isn't simple or anything different than it was before, he's just able to clarify it a little bit better. He's able to make the assignments easier on any given play. You've heard Anthony Hitchens talk about it, and he was crediting Steve Spagnuolo, but part of it's also got to go to Matt House. He knows what he's doing. He can go back and look at the film and say, okay, I need to do this here on this play based on what my coaches are telling me. Whereas it seems like in years past, or especially last year, just that was a little bit more up in the air, and which coaches had to be around to tell him what he was supposed to do on this given play with a bunch of other variables involved.
I got nothing to add there. I'll just say I'm excited. I really like that this guy particularly is in the building. You know, he came from the college game. I think that helps getting, the spread game is influencing the NFL more and more. And so having a guy who was coaching at the college level, I think has some value to, the input provided moving forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And, who knows, maybe down the road, he's a defensive coordinator here in Kansas City once, Spagnuolo and Daly move on. Ron Kopp, first off, new contributor to Arrowhead Pride, Ron Kopp. Welcome buddy.
Ron.
Ron. You're still my favorite. You got me my first Arrowhead Pride emoji in the Slack channel.
That's true. Yeah, that's true as well. Our guy, Ron Kopp, asks, how bad does Eric Fisher have to be this year for the Chiefs to cut him and save $10 million next offseason?
So I think more than Eric Fisher being really bad, you have to see somebody come up looking real promising at offensive tackle. If you're going to get rid of Eric Fisher, and I understand saving $10 million is important, but it's still kind of a very important position along the offensive line. You have your future is your quarterback. You do have to keep him safe. And Patrick Mahomes limits some of the worries about the offensive line, but not all of it. So unless Fisher's just completely reverted back to his rookie or second year form, he's probably worth paying whatever it's going to take, unless you have somebody waiting and you don't have to go spend draft capital that really needs to be spent on defense or potentially wide receiver, depending on how everything shakes out.
Yeah, I agree with Matt on that. You got to have a contingency plan there. You can't just walk in and creating a hole just to have to fill it in the draft with a rookie left tackle isn't smart with a franchise quarterback, in my opinion. I also think that Eric Fisher is going to get the best work in practice that he ever has. That's not a slight against Dee Ford or Justin Houston. We know that Eric Fisher struggles with power a little bit. That's what Frank Clark and Alex Okafor are going to bring to him every single rep of practice. He's going to get worked. That
big Frank energy, man.
Frank energy. He comes back as a defensive end.
I'm hyped to see Frank Clark competing at training camp. That's going to be a real treat. I think Eric
fight. So
it's the rumor. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they've gotten some tussles already. I think it's good for Eric Fisher. It would have to be both of his feet would have to fall off, I think, before the Chiefs don't bring him back next year. Frankly, I think it's a really long leash, and you don't want to mess with too much with Patrick Mahomes. I like the question; it's interesting. It's something we haven't been asked in a while, or I don't think at all, honestly. Johnny Louder asks, haven't heard about the supplemental draft much, which is coming up tomorrow, July 10th. If you're not listening tomorrow, any of you guys or anyone you guys liking it? So there's a couple prospects. I actually wrote a piece on Arrowhead Pride today, just giving you a little bit primer about the supplemental draft. It's not as enticing as it was last year when Sam Beal was available, and that would have been fun. Although tore his labrum or whatever, but maybe that wouldn't have happened in Casey. Who knows? But there's a couple guys that are probably going to get drafted tomorrow or already have been drafted, depending on when you're listening to it. Jaylen Thompson, the safety from Washington State, 5'10", 186, a little bit slight. Some people think he might wind up transitioning back to corner, but he does have a cornerback background, has some coverage skills. He's not afraid to tackle, but he's a little bit undersized. Some team might wind up putting a early day 3 or maybe a late day 2 kind of bid on him. The other guy is Marcus Sims, a wide receiver from West Virginia. He's probably going to wind up maybe getting, a late day 3 bid on him, or, maybe he's a priority free agent for a bunch of teams. I just don't see, with the draft capital these teams already invested at safety this year and at wide receiver this year, if either of those two draftable guys are really under consideration for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And that gives me the opportunity to say, for those of you that are trying to transform Jaylen Thompson to a corner, which is where I think he fits the biggest role for as a Chief, Chiefs are probably going to have to give up a round 2 or a round 3 pick for that. I have already started in on some cornerbacks for next year. I like next year's cornerback class significantly better than the 2019 cornerback class. There are a ton of guys I would put in front of Jaylen Thompson already. So I would wait and save that pick. I know that we want to get corners, cost-controlled corners under contract, soon. But I'm not sure that he makes a big impact this year. I'd rather save that and spend it on a higher upside guy.
Yeah, and I think I'm a little lower on Thompson than everybody else here, just because to me he's a nickel-only corner. He's a guy that has a limited usage for the NFL. He struggled a little bit last year with bigger wide receivers, even playing in the Pac-12. You really saw it against Iowa State when they got to their bowl game with Hakeem Butler, who granted towers over just about all cornerbacks, but you could really see the size disparity there. I would just be concerned that you're going to get even more of that in the NFL. So I'd be surprised if you do see a day 2 pick used on him. I think he's going to be a early day 3 in the supplemental draft pick. Outside of that, you do have Shaim Colin, the linebacker from Syracuse. The only reason I want to mention him is just because the Chiefs were one of the few teams that were at his pro day. I don't think that he's going to be a guy that gets drafted. It's just the Chiefs were at his pro day. There was only 2 other teams there with him. He's a Dorian O'Daniel-like smaller linebacker that has some coverage skills, that's a little bit, pretty athletic, but he's not a guy that I'd look to spend high draft capital on either.
And one other piece to add to this whole supplemental draft talk, the Chiefs have already burned their 6th and 7th round picks in 2020. And you're surrendering with the supplemental draft. If you don't know, you're surrendering 2020 assets. They've already given up their last 2 picks in the draft for next year, which Maddie's thrilled about, I'm sure, because he hates day 3 with a burning passion. Techno Brad asks, let's say the season is a complete disaster and the entire front office and coaching staff is fired except one person. Who would you keep that isn't Andy Reid, and why? Okay. So I think I would keep Steve Spagnuolo, and here's why. I don't think you can make decisions about him as a coach with 1 year. He does have a track record of success. I would like to see him get another year to coach and teach this group of players that have been brought in specifically for him. So if we're having to keep one, I'd keep Steve Spagnuolo, give him a little bit more time. He's got enough track record that I trust him.
You see, if it's a complete failure and they're firing the entire front office and the coaching staff, that means that a new coaching staff is going to have to come in and keep somebody. They're not keeping Steve Spagnuolo. They're keeping Brendan Daly. That's who they're going to keep. He's a guy with a pedigree. He's a guy with rings. He has gotten production out of players that weren't necessarily the best players in the NFL from a talent perspective. So I could definitely see if a new coaching staff came in that Brendan Daly would be a guy that they would try and make sure to keep on staff, maybe even promoting him to defensive coordinator if it is a more offensive head coach. That's who I would go with.
Yeah, see, and here's the tricky part, because keeping a coordinator around really depends on the head coach that you bring in. Like, in the real world, you would never get to keep a guy that's just going to be a coordinator and tell your new head coach that you're keeping a Brendan Daly or an Eric Bieniemy as a coordinator and just make them work with it. So you would almost have to keep a GM or a Steve Spagnuolo and push him up to head coach, which if it's a complete failure, I don't think I'd want to do either one of those things. So I think just for Patrick Mahomes' development, which is the most important thing to the team, I'm keeping Kafka. Just keeping him around, the guy that's been around the most. It's kind of this is a home run swing. This is a big swing right here.
I do too.
But again, this is your team right now is Patrick Mahomes. Keep the guy that works with him the most often around him, the guy that's kind of been there for him the whole time with the Chiefs. He seems to be a rising star as is. So to see if he can keep that Patrick Mahomes magic working as some other team comes in, maybe he gets promoted up in the ranks in the switch over, but he's just a guy to work with Mahomes.
Probably would have heard a Bieniemy argument too.
Thought about it.
Yeah.
But again, same thing though. If you're bringing in a new head coach, they're going to want their coordinators. I think you'd have an easier job keeping a positional coach around.
You really thought through this question way more than I did.
Look, I do this by the seat of my pants. I didn't even open up our questions until 2 minutes before we started. So
this is off the cuff, thoughtful Maddie.
It's a very thoughtful approach to everything. Like, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
That's what I'm known for, is very thoughtful approaches to everything. Kent.
You get every thought in your head out onto the audio.
Somehow I do it quicker than you get your one thought out.
Rise of Mahomes asks, moving on, if you were a mad scientist and could create the ultimate edge rusher using parts of past Chiefs legends and current Chiefs players, what attributes would you pick and choose to create that player? So he wants me to answer on edge. He wants Maddie to answer that on D tackle. And Craig, he wants you to answer it on defensive back, corner, safety. Pick one. You do you, buddy. My answer, I think I'd take Tamba Hali's frame and Tamba Hali's ability against the run, and then everything else just what Derek Thomas is. And I think he's going to somehow top whatever Derek Thomas did in his tenure in Kansas City. Anyway.
Kid got such the easy one there. It's just, Derek Thomas, one of the prototype edge players ever. Yeah.
He just needed to include Jared Allen and we would have been set.
Nope. I have reasons. Never mind. They stay away.
That's a story for a non-podcast.
Yeah.
So, defensive tackle. We're going to start with, we're going the realm of impossibility here because physiologically this cannot happen, but we're going to go ahead and take Dontari Poe's just size, frame, not health, certainly not health, but just his size and frame. We're going to put just Chris Jones' length on him, though. I do want Chris Jones' length and just general pass rush plan. Like, I want Chris Jones' pass rush technique. We're going to go pre-knee injury Glenn Dorsey, which I understand was LSU, not for the Chiefs, but pre-knee injury Glenn Dorsey's quickness, first step, was off the charts for a defensive tackle. Alan Bailey's strengths going in, not really a legend. Neither one of these last two guys are legends, but I'm Frankensteining a defensive tackle here. And finally, I think that we need some kind of dog mentality. We need somebody that's going to be just a little angry and willing to get in the mix. So I think we're going to have to go with
Tyson Jackson.
We're going to go with Eric Hicks action, a little mentality from back in the day. I saw him getting a few too many scuffles, not scuffles, but shoving matches when I was younger, when he was around. So I think that's kind of where I'd come up with the quickness of a pre-injury Glenn Dorsey and Dontari Poe's body with Chris Jones' technique and just kind of the mentality or toughness of Eric Hicks.
I like it. I want that player to play on my team. I'm gonna do just a cornerback here. I'm not gonna go into safety. I'm gonna do just a cornerback. I'm putting Albert Lewis's frame and athletic build together, a 4.38 corner that's 6'2" and has freakishly long arms. I'm going to pair Emmett Thomas's man coverage with Marcus Peters's zone coverage and ball skills. Going to put that together there. Brandon Flowers' footwork and hips, along with James Hasty's aggression, and meld this all in together into this massive, freakishly fast, instinctual ball hawk that can hit like a truck.
Did you do size? Did I miss the size?
Size is Albert Lewis, 6'2".
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say Sean Smith would have been my guess, so I missed that.
No. 6'2", and he had 35-inch arms. Like, he was a freak. So, yeah.
I dig it. Kay Gumminger asks if Pete Sweeney is the Andy Reid of Arrowhead Pride, the one who makes the machine run. Who are each of you in terms of players? I'm Harrison Butker.
No. Should we be? I think we should be coaching staff members if Pete is the Andy Reid, right?
You ruined my transition into my answer.
Look, I'm telling you, I just happened to see the question now, and it would make sense to be staff members, correct?
No one asked you. Hey, Gumminger asked you players. You're going off script, so maybe you're Mahomes.
Also returning off script, I think everybody should answer for the person below them on the list. So you answer for me, Craig answers for you, I answer for Craig.
Okay, well now that's hard. Okay, hold on. Do either of you have an answer? Because I'm put on the spot. I had a good one.
Ken is Butker because Butker has the best hair.
I was going to say because I have the easiest job, but I just have to, kick field goals. Actually, no, I'm Colquitt because I have the easiest job.
Stop. You're using too many answers. Dustin Colquitt is clearly Craig because he has the wily veteran. Come on, you can't do that.
And people keep paying me, and nobody's quite sure why I'm here. I am definitely Colquitt. And I'm old.
Yeah, that's what I was going with. The aging veteran. You're definitely Dustin Colquitt. Although I don't know if he has the beard you do, so and I got to go back to the think tank.
Maddie's Chris Jones because he's going off script.
Jacked. Yeah.
And he's jacked. And he's handsome. Anyways, who are we waiting on? Does Matt do you have to do me? Okay.
I got you already. You were
okay.
Yeah, we're done.
Oh, okay.
We did it. We have two special teamers, and somehow I got Chris Jones.
Garrett 720 asks, who's a bottom of the roster guy who will greatly benefit from the coaching staff, either offensively or defensively? I don't know if Carlos Hyde counts as a bottom of the roster guy. I think he's going to benefit from this situation that he's in now. Let's stay in the running back room, though. I really like what Darren Thompson brings to the table, and I think he'll benefit greatly from that group, that nucleus of Eric Bieniemy and Dylan McCullough. I think both those guys, having two guys like that in the room, is just going to help continue to churn and burn some of these running backs through the system, and I think Darwin Thompson's going to be in position to succeed moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky question when you're going bottom of the roster, but I think that Garrett Dieter has to be close to the bottom of the roster with this wide receiver room, and I think that he's a chance. Now, it's not a new coaching staff or anything, but he just seems like he's starting to understand stuff, starting to get it a little bit more, and that comes with more time in Andy Reid's offense. So things are starting to click for him a little bit more. Nothing new coaching-wise that he's getting, just more coaching, more time with the coaches, more time with the first and second team. So I could see him having a bigger impact this year than last year.
I'm going to go with Xavier Williams. He fits the mold of what Spagnuolo wants out of his defensive tackles. Big guy, a little bit of quickness, not much, but a little bit of quickness. I think that Brendan Daly is going to give him the best coaching that he's had of his career. Remember, he was in Arizona, and then he was there last year with Britt Reed and Bob Sutton. I think he's going to get the best coaching of his career. I think he's going to be a rotational piece that might surprise as this year goes along. Maybe the Chiefs even get a compensatory pick for him or something when he hits the free agent market next year.
I had to go there.
Yeah, going straight to my brand. I'm going to add another guy real quick. Nick Allegretti. I think the Chiefs have done a good job of developing late round, undrafted type guys at the offensive line. Along the offensive line, I think Nick Allegretti could be a guy that's well positioned to potentially be the starting center here in a couple of years, because I feel like, they've done a good job of taking guys off the scrap heap, taking late round picks, taking, guys like that and developing them and finding roles for them. So that's another guy. I think they've done. That's a good, if you're going to have a franchise quarterback and you're trying to find places to save money, being able to develop offensive linemen, I think, is a ton of value. So we're going to throw
one more out there real quick, actually.
Go.
And this is kind of a sink or swim one, but Mark Fields. And here's the thing. I love Dabo Sweeney. I love Brent Venables at Clemson. These guys can coach their tails off. I find it very odd that a player could not get along with both of those guys, that he was just very much disliked by both of them. So understanding that there's got to be some kind of red flag there in terms of coachability is there. But if this coaching staff can reach him, if this professional coaching staff can get him to really buy in, he's a guy that does have some stuff to work on. But if he does, he's got all the natural talent to be a fantastic player in the NFL. He just has to accept coaching and buy all in. So if these guys can get him to do that, he's a guy that could really see his game start to climb real quickly from even as a rookie.
We're going to take a break. We will be back with more of your questions on the live stream after this.
All right, from the chat, we got Jared Lane. Other than Spags, which coach will have the greatest impact to the respective group? I'm going to take Brendan Daly off of the thing just because I've been talking about him a lot. But
I'll choose him.
Okay. Matty can talk about him a lot. I'll say Sam Madison. Sam Madison's going to get those guys up to speed quickly with terminology, with what Spagnuolo wants out of that group. I think that his ability to translate all of that immediately is going to be beneficial for that cornerback group that was a little lost last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm going to go with Brendan Daly just because from everything I've seen and heard about him, I love what he brings to the table. I think he's a fantastic coach. I'm not going to say he was looked over in New England, but he definitely felt like he should have been up for the next defensive coordinator job, it seems like, and he should have been. What he's done with some of those defensive line things that they do, the stunts and the games that they were running were fantastic. That's always hard to figure out how much of a role the defensive line or any defensive coach plays for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Just everything about him seems really good. I like his energy, the way he seems to, the words that come out from players about him as a coach. A sleeper is Kafka. Sorry if Ken is going to go ahead and go with him. But I think if you kind of follow the natural progression here, if you follow the natural progression of just of offensive coaches underneath Andy Reid, you start to hear about them one year. The next year, they start to get a bigger role before they take that last final big step. And it kind of seems like Kafka's at the point now where you're going to start hearing his name mentioned a little bit more in big media stuff coming up this year.
I'm going to answer this question, but also kind of answer OUSAS's question. Just asked, how do you think Britt Reid will do in his new role? So I was going to go with Daly too, because Britt Reid's not coaching that anymore, and he's going to make a huge impact going from whatever Britt Reid was doing to this, to Brendan Daly. So I don't think Britt Reid's role, I don't know. He got severely demoted. Take that for what you will. He got severely demoted. He's an assistant linebacker coach now. So, or is it a secondary?
Linebacker.
It is linebacker. So he's going to help Matt House handle the position. He got demoted from defensive line coach to assistant linebacker coach.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it.
We don't know the breakdown of anything, so we don't know what he's actually doing. But it's also worth noting that Matt House is pretty much just a linebacker coach. He's not the run game coordinator like Brendan Daly is or something. He's just a linebacker coach. And Britt Reid is the assistant linebacker coach.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, read the tea leaves, folks.
Yeah.
That's
Sam
all.
says, what's the most embarrassing thing you do to assure the Chiefs getting Bryce Hall in the 2020 draft? I wouldn't do anything that embarrassing for Bryce Hall, but I might do something more embarrassing for Jaylen Johnson.
Woo! I watched Jaylen Johnson last night because Craig started talking about him. He is fun. I think he put – not full Byron Murphy vibes, but if you like Byron Murphy, I think you're probably going to wind up liking Jaylen Johnson too.
So early in the process, I'll stand alone on the Bryce Hall hill. I'm okay with this. But, I mean, it depends. Like, what are we talking is embarrassing here? Because I don't think I would do a whole lot to make sure we get a draft prospect just because you don't really know how they're going to play out. But, like if we're just talking like running naked through the streets of my hometown or something like that, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I would.
You do that anyway, right?
Not embarrassing.
You're practically naked right now, Maddie.
Saturday. I mean, good thing the podcast is from navel up.
Yeah.
Thank
true.
God.
Very true.
I don't really know what I'd do for Bryce Hall. I don't know. I'm boring, frankly. So I'm not imaginative enough to be like doing something of substance. So, any more questions?
No. I think we got it covered there.
Okay. Let's get into the second half of these questions real quick. Let me do something real quick.
Sounds good.
Jared Lane, by the way, I may or may not have had his barbecue this weekend, and it was delightful.
Oh.
Had some pulled pork, had some burnt ends, broke my gluten thing, and had some pasta salad that my wife made. That was a treat.
I'm assuming he did not ruin the pulled pork with vinegar sauce like they like to do out here in the Carolinas.
No, he put on some kind of I think it was molasses-based sauce, and it was so good.
Kent, I hate to burst your bubble, but what do you think's in that beer, buddy?
I know. I'm aware. I told you. What? This isn't potato vodka?
Wait, who's got potato vodka?
I'm well aware. I'm well aware.
Okay.
It's very interesting to hear you talk about gluten-free when we had like a 3-hour-long debate one day about if it's okay to eat just like a cake for breakfast.
A pancake?
If it's okay just to have like a slice of wedding cake for your breakfast.
Right.
I've never said wedding cake.
Same thing. All sugary cake, same thing.
Charlie Rogers asks if we're going to any games this year. And I know there was a question kind of up above about meetups and things like that. We are going to try and do a little bit more of that as the season goes along and let you guys know when things are coming like that. Yep. Try and give ample heads up because we want to meet you guys too. So we will make sure that information is very well known so that we can meet up and say hi and maybe share a beer.
Well, if you remember, like last year, I think we did 2 meetups at like the other place, and that wasn't necessarily Nerd Squad related, but we're gonna try to do organize some stuff, and we'll like Craig said, we'll make sure we'll get stuff out to you as soon as we can, and we'll blast it all over the podcast. And it's fun meeting all of you guys. Like I really enjoy it. I know Craig and Maddie enjoy it too. So I like meeting all the people that listen to the show and want to talk ball and stuff. So
yep.
Okay, should we get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. In 3, 2, 1. Jason Cabe asks, if the attempt to sign Earl Thomas wouldn't have fallen through, how would that have impacted the Chiefs draft, Craig?
Oh man, let's get on this train a little bit. I like this question a lot. If the Chiefs sign Earl Thomas, it's probably for a 1-year deal. That's reportedly what it was. It was a big money big money 1-year deal. They're not cemented at safety, but they have a bunch of young guys there that they're looking at. Juan Thornhill is off the table. Like I just do not think that Juan Thornhill's on the table at all. But Brett Veach talked about how much he liked Colin Saunders, about how much he really didn't expect for him to be there when it spun back around to that 3rd-round draft pick. I think Colin Saunders gets taken in Juan Thornhill's spot because we heard the type of cornerbacks that they were looking at in the franchise, and they kind of admitted that all of the guys that they liked were gone. So I don't think that they would have reached for a cornerback. I don't think they would have reached for an inferior talent. I think maybe that 3rd-round draft pick, we maybe see a tight end slip in there. That was a good tight end class. That was about the sweet spot for him. I would say maybe they try and find a blocking tight end. They're really trying hard to find another guy to back up Travis Kelce. So that's where I think that they would have gone in the Colin Saunders pick.
Yeah, I think that's the most logical thing because Brett Veach was very clear. Colin Saunders was somebody that they had about that point on their board. So Juan Thornhill, I agree, likely isn't happening. If they sign 2 free agent safeties for high dollar value, you're likely going to get Colin Saunders. That 3rd round pick just really up in the air for anything. I mean, you could obviously, based on what they did the rest of the draft, you could have seen an interior offensive lineman. You could have seen a running back go off the board. There's so many different ways they could have gone. But the big thing is I'm with Craig. I'm not sure there's a cornerback that they felt high or good enough about to take at either one of those spots based on what they've said and what they've been looking at coming through there, which is unfortunate from our point of view when we think they really need a cornerback. But I think that you're looking at the same thing. You're looking at a blocking tight end. Maybe you get an interior offensive lineman or a running back a little earlier on.
If Jalen Ferguson Jalen Ferguson might have been the next pick. Am I right? If Colin Saunders is off the board,
oh man,
and the very next pick after Colin Saunders was Jalen Ferguson. No,
I's bet on Jalen Ferguson's production this year would have been a lot more interesting had he been a Chief.
That's true.
Man, I would have been actively rooting against him. A couple guys, if Craig's scenario had played out, maybe a guy like Kahale Warring. He went kind of around that age, and I feel like he would have made a lot of sense as a pass or as a tight end. A guy like Connor McGovern was a guy we were all pretty high on that went at pick 90. I was a big fan of his. I'm pretty sure Matt, were you a McGovern guy?
Big McGovern guy, yes.
I think we all were, yeah.
Oh man, him as an interior offensive lineman, I think would have been awesome. But whatever. Okay, let's see here. CJR asks, if my wife comes home tonight, will she bring Joe's Q39 or LC's? Give me Joe's.
Q39.
I mean, like, I would want Q39 brought home to me, but I think she's going to go to LC's because why not?
Yeah, you're not going to go wrong. Tizzle Sage.
No, LC's is wrong, but I mean, I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but just a guess. Shot in the dark here.
Aerodontis asks, who would be on your all AFC West team at every position?
Here we go.
Maddie, you don't have to give the why on all of these.
Kent, I need you to keep your answers to a minimum.
All right, here we go. I'm not even going to answer the quarterback question because we already know. Matt, you're up at running back.
Oh, I was going to go Derek Carr at quarterback. Oh, we're not doing everybody? What? Okay. Running back. Melvin Gordon.
Ooh.
I like Melvin Gordon. He's no Jamal Charles, but I like him.
Yeah. Wide receiver for me, Keenan Allen. First guy off.
Wide receiver for me, I think I got to go Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And I think you have to. This one's got me torn. I'm going to go with the Lizard King just because I think his top talent's better. But unfortunately, Sammy Watkins, for those that don't know, the Lizard King is Sammy Watkins based on tweets from last year. I was very tempted to go with Mike Williams just because I did like a lot of what I saw from him last year from the Chargers.
Yeah. I have tight ends. There's only one choice. It's Travis Kelce. Next.
Left tackle. I'm drawing a blank on. I think there's really not is there a good left tackle? Am I missing someone? Is it Eric Fisher? I think it might be Eric Fisher. It might be Eric Fisher.
Bowles.
It's definitely not Garrett Bowles. It's not
Colton Miller.
It's not Colton Miller. It's
oh yeah. It might be Eric Fisher. Honestly,
that's wild.
It is wild. Matt, left guard.
Oh man, same thing. I don't think anybody's got a great one now. I think the Raiders would have had it locked up, but they got rid of some guys, so I can't go in. No, you know what? I don't even care. I'm going Andrew Wiley. I'm going full homer because I just think he's going to be that good.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I really would like to say Forrest Lamp, but the Chargers just have something against playing him ever, so I have no idea what he looks like in the NFL, or he would have been my pick based on his college film.
I liked Forrest Lamp I think we've talked about this before. We both really liked Forrest Lamp out of college, but he hasn't done much.
They haven't played him. They played Dan Feeney, who is terrible, over him.
Yeah, I like Dan Feeney a little bit coming out too. Anyways, Craig, who's the center?
Before we get into that, Antonio Brown, we just straight up forgot.
I remembered him.
Okay.
I knew he was available.
I forgot about Antonio Brown.
I forgot about him, so I'm going to go ahead and go out there and say Sammy Watkins still because I don't want.
I love it. Center's a 2-horse race between Rodney Hudson and Mike Pouncey. I think I'm gonna go Pouncey on this one. I think Hudson's been good lately too, but I think I'm gonna go Pouncey.
Got to go with health.
Yeah. I think the right guard is Gabe Jackson from Oakland. I think that's probably the pick. I'm trying to think if there's another right guard. Offensive line is literally the hardest one to do of all these. I would say probably Gabe Jackson. Am I missing someone?
Dalton Risner.
No. Next, Maddie, right tackle.
This is a pretty easy one. Mitchell Schwartz. And I feel like the left guard of going with Andrew Wiley is very ambitious, and it kind of seems like I'm a homer here, just throwing all these Chiefs out there. The Sammy Watkins one's definitely a homer pick. Left guard, I'm looking through the AFC West. There's nobody there. Mitchell Schwartz is the pick, by the way. Good pick. Just the left guard. Throw a dart. Throw a dart, man.
That was like the easiest one, and you still had something to say at right tackle.
I'm uneasy about my left guard pick of Andrew Wiley, but then I'm looking through everybody else. And it's Ronald Leary. Doesn't do anything for me. Dan Feeney, not good. I mean, like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Craig, give us an edge.
Von Miller. I mean, it's real easy. Von is the number one edge in the group, especially with Khalil Mack and Justin Houston and Dee Ford out of the equation. Von is number one edge.
I'll give you an interior defensive lineman, and I'll take it easy on myself. Chris Jones. I mean, very good football player. Next, Maddie, another D tackle.
Derek Wolfe. I think he's a little underrated. Derek Wolfe. Get some Derek Wolfe.
Oh, gross.
Really? Who would you go with?
I don't know. Not Derek Wolfe.
Who?
Yeah. Are you going to go Mo Hurst?
Yes. I love Mo Hurst. No. Derek Wolfe's fine. Whatever. I just don't like him.
Yeah.
I just don't like him.
So
give us an edge, Craig.
Yeah, I got both edges here.
Just give us both at the same time. That's fine.
It's between Frank Clark and Joey Bosa for the other one, opposite of Von Miller. I think I'm going to go Clark just for consistency and health, but Joey Bosa is amazing. So I'm going to go Clark.
I'm up at the will. And just so we can continue to make sure that everybody knows who the will is on this football team, I'm taking Anthony Hitchens just to make sure everyone knows he is the will in the base. Maddie, give us a mic.
Oh, the mic. I'm drawing some blanks right now. I guess Denzel Perryman, when healthy, is very good. He would be like a better Reggie Ragland and play like one down, but that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah. And then the Sam, I'm going to go Thomas Davis coming over from Carolina. I know he's old. I know he's slow, but I love me some Thomas Davis. That may be just an old man pick right there, but I love me some Thomas Davis.
I'm also trying to figure out, I'm not sure how many other will linebackers there are in the AFC West either.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyways, cornerback, since we're picking two, Chris Harris has got to be on that list. And then let's see here.
The other one's very easy too.
Who am I drawing a blank on?
Casey Hayward.
Oh, yeah. Casey Hayward. Good call. Good job, Matt. Thank you for good job, Kent.
The safety is probably like one of the hardest safety and edge and wide receiver, I guess, since we did forget Antonio Brown, might be the hardest position to choose.
We didn't forget Antonio Brown.
I'm going to go with
keep that mustache away from you.
I'm going to go with Tyrann Mathieu just because of his versatility, but I think there's an equally good option that I would probably even take going forward if I was running a team.
And that equally good option is Derwin James that Maddie is referring to, and that's who the other safety that I'm taking. That's a pretty good squad. A little light on your offensive line, but that's a pretty good squad.
Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. That's all that matters.
Oh, I thought it was Phil.
Okay. All right, CJ. Oh, wait, no, you guys answer that question. Tizzle Sage asks, who starts opposite of Frank Clark? Ogba, Okafor, and what do you think the rep percentage will be? Maddie?
Oh, sorry. I think that Okafor is going to start across from him. I think he's going to play north of 60% of the snaps. I think Ogba is going to have a good split between playing D end and on the inside. I don't think he's really going to push for starting reps on the outside.
Craig, let me jump in and ask you this question because he just kind of explained a lot of that. Mm-hmm. One thing that I want you to maybe just stop and talk a little bit about real quick, and then we can move on to the next question. Snap percentages for all the defensive linemen. I mean, it feels like you don't have to speak and go down the list, but I mean, we've talked at times, and you said Chris Jones might be sub 60% snaps potentially. Maybe just kind of explain a little bit of that a little bit more.
I think that there's just going to be a very healthy rotation. I mean, we talk a lot about how, like Matt said there, Okafor is going to be 60-ish%. Frank Clark, I think, is going to be your only guy that crests that. I think that the rest of those defensive linemen are going to be situational rushers, rotational pieces. Ogba will get some reps outside, but he's also going to get a bunch of reps inside as a 3-tech. There are multiple guys that can play inside there. I think Ogba's maybe 40% of the snaps. I don't think we're going to see the same sort of divvied up percentages that we have in the past there, where you got kind of a clear 3 or 4 guys that are getting the vast majority of the reps in the nickel, close to the line of scrimmage there. I think that there's going to be maybe 6 or 7 guys that are conservatively going to get above 25% of the reps, just rotating through all of those guys, moving them inside, moving them outside, trying to expose different matchups. We've seen that with the Patriots. We've seen that with Spagnuolo in the past. I think that those two ideas are going to kind of meld together with this group of people. They can all kind of move around, so it makes perfect sense to find those matchups and go with them. So that's why we're going to see a lot less of big snap percentage numbers and a lot more guys getting those, close to 40% snap percentage numbers.
We're going to be answering some of the questions from the live stream here after this next question. So if you've got some things that you want to know, if you're watching the live stream right now, feel free to throw them into the live chat right now. We're going to answer this question real quick. SoCal1186 asks, is it true that good defensive line play covers or secondary, Craig?
This has been kind of the topic. This has been the thing that everybody wants to talk about right now. It's pass rush versus cornerbacks. And the honest answer is no, because we saw good D-line play last year. Justin Houston, D Ford, Chris Jones, those 3 were good defensive linemen. They got good play out of that defensive line, and it did not cover for poor secondary. The Chiefs' defense was legitimately bad last year. You have to have that symbiotic relationship. You have to be able to have that sort of ebb and flow between those two. Really, the best defense, other than, obviously having 2 elite units, is having both of those units just be good. Not one over the other. It's just if you have both of those units good, then you get the most out of it. The Ravens were a prime example of that last year. I mean, how many of those players would you call elite, or those groups of players would you call elite? They had some members that were, but not groups as a whole that were. They just played really well together and fed off of each other well, and they complemented each other. That's why you saw them be so good.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue is in years past, especially if you go back 3, 4, 5 years now, a good D-line or even a great D-line like the Chiefs had last year could cover for a poor secondary. But as offenses are really starting to advance, they're starting to really take advantage of the quick passing game, the spread offense, and stuff like that. You need a defensive coach that can help your poor secondary in this scenario cover for themselves. The good defensive line is going to get pressure, but if you're giving up open receivers in less time than it takes even a great defensive line to get pressure, it doesn't matter what the simplified as offenses running the spread system and a hurry up can make things. You saw that with the Patriots and the Chiefs in both matchups. There just was no time for the pass rush to get home. Even if it was a great defensive line, there was just no chance. You need a defensive coach that can help cover for it if that's the route you're going to go. And the Chiefs simply didn't have that last year. And even then, your margin of error is so minimal. You think of a team like the Colts, they didn't have a great defensive line, but their secondary was playing more not to get beat deep. They were playing to give up everything underneath, rally to the ball, make tackles. If you had a great defensive line with that kind of coverage system, there's a chance it could work most of the time, but it's still that very small margin of error until a team puts up 40 on you in the playoffs, just for the simple fact that offenses have the advantage almost at every step of the way right now.
The Chiefs have had some dominant fronts in Andy Reid's time, not just last year. I mean, maybe not from a sack productivity standpoint, but they've always had some really salty, quality defensive fronts. And I've seen good fronts get exposed, not them specifically, but defenses get exposed, even though they had good fronts with the quick game. Like, we've seen that when early, like 2014, 15, I think there was really good pass rush. They were playing a lot of man behind it, and people were rub routing them to death. I mean, I think Peyton Manning just obliterated them. This ball's gone, like, quick. And it was so frustrating to watch. It was helpless. The one thing that I've always, like, one of the things that's always stuck with me, one of my coaches played in the league. He talked about in the NFL, it's exposing matchups. It's exposing players, specific players. You pick on bad players, and then that's where you go. If you have bad players at corner, they're going to get picked on, whether the pass rush is good or not. You've got to find a way to help them as best you can, but eventually those bad players are going to get exposed. It sounds simple because it is. Let's take a few questions from
It's a really good thing that those bad players in the secondary are no longer there, right? Especially at corner.
Yeah, they've made so many massive changes there, and they've really done a lot to address the cornerback position. I'm not worried at all.
Not at all. Definitely not. Chris Albright asks, what type of blitz packages do you think that we will see from Spags? Maddie, you've been looking at it a little bit. You got any more insight on this?
Everything. We will see everything. I don't even know if I can really put my finger on what you're going to see the most. You're going to get a lot of safety or kind of nickel DB look blitzes. You're going to get a ton of stunts and twists, especially if Brendan Daly has any say in this. You are going to get a lot of short and long twists and stunts. You're going to get linebackers blitzing. I mean, any kind of blitz you can imagine, it is 100% on the table, and I can probably pull an example from Spagnuolo with the Giants and Brendan Daly with the Patriots having some form of that blitz being used for them with a regular season game.
Yeah, and when you watch it, the safety position especially is really, really active pre-snap. There's lots of linebacker pre-slap. Yeah, well, there's a lot of slapping that goes along in that. No, the linebackers show blitzes often, but the safeties fake a lot of blitzes, and they will drive from 10 yards deep on these blitzes. Like, there's a lot of action with the safeties. They end up covering a lot of ground, both, trying to disguise blitzes and actually blitzing. So, yeah, everything's on the table.
Zero hesitation on the nickel cornerback blitz, too. Like,
oh, my God, yeah.
Zero hesitation sending a nickel, which makes sense from the match quarters perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to get somebody else over there to cover that spot. Not pretty easy, but it's more doable if you're game planning for the offense well. But you're going to see a lot of cornerback blitzes compared to years past.
Absolutely. In cover 3 looks, you will have Kendall Fuller and Tyrann Mathieu that can come off the edge there. Those guys are both good blitzers. That works. We've got Do you think, from Brendan Key, do you think Reed will continue this season to further his use of the spread offense? And is there any particular way you see him using the current players? Kent?
Yeah, so he's definitely going to continue to lean into that spread offense, and he's going to continue to add spread concepts. Patrick Mahomes is familiar with a lot of these things. He's comfortable with a lot of these things, and one of the things Andy Reid always does is try to play to these guys' strengths, play to the things they like, play with the things they're comfortable with. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't like certain things, then they're going to get eliminated. Mahomes is going to continue to like some of these concepts, and they've had success with a lot of these spread concepts too. So yeah, they're going to continue to integrate. They're going to continue to build off this thing. As for what we might see this year, I would really, one of the things, this is just me personally, I like when Sammy Watkins has the ball in his hand on those Jets, maybe in design screen games, because he's got really good contact balance for a guy at the receiver position. That's something I'd like to continue to see them utilize, because every time they would go to that, I was very intrigued by that. And it helps manufacture some touches for a guy that you want the ball in his hands. He's a very good football player. He's a unique football player. He's different than any of the guys that they have right now. So I would try to utilize some of those things as an additional wrinkle into the offense.
Another thing, I think you saw it last year. You saw a little bit less two tight end sets from the Chiefs, and I would expect that to continue. That's why I've kind of not been huge on the go after a tight end too heavy or early on in the draft. Demetrius Harris played over 100 snaps less than he did the year before. And I understand that he missed a game, but he wasn't coming close to 100 snaps in a single game. I think it's just part of the spread offense here. You're going to get more speed on the field. You're going to try to spread it out more, which just simply means less two tight end looks. Something I think we all expected to see last year as well was the two running back looks from the Chiefs, which we really didn't get a whole lot of. I wonder if it's something that's going to come this year. But again, I think that if you're thinking just what helps Mahomes the most, it's going to be getting as many wide receivers on the field as possible rather than tight ends or running backs.
We got one from Sam. Do you believe there's still hope to improve our cornerback situation before the preseason begins, whether that may be a trade or free agent signing? I know we kind of get this one a lot. I'm sticking with my guns. I'm going to say that they're going to pick up somebody after cut downs, or maybe during training camp, maybe trading. Again, I know I keep saying his name, trade Cam Irving and get a player that's maybe a backup corner for somebody else, kind of a like-for-like sort of situation where they get a player that can be a good rotational offensive lineman. The Chiefs can get a player that can be a good rotational corner, much like Charvarius Ward and Parker Ehringer last year. So I'm sticking with that.
I guess define improvement, though.
That's I think
that's where it's hard to find places where, I mean, even one of those moves, like, I don't know how much it moves the needle. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm going to ask both of you this question because I saw his name in the last couple of days. Mo Claiborne still doesn't have a team, and I don't think he's a major improvement, but he might be a marginal uptick compared to – I mean, I wonder if he's got a little bit of value.
I would think that's – and this is just pure speculation, health. Like, I would think that a guy like Mo Claiborne would have found a home already if he were healthy, I think. He's been on a couple visits from what we know, so I would have thought that a team would have signed him already, kind of like the Eric Berry situation where it's like, okay, if he was healthy, he would have a team already because he had – a pretty decent last year. So I would think that teams would be looking out for that.
Yeah, and I think that he would at least be an improvement from the aspect that you know that his floor would be higher than Charvarius Ward's floor as your third cornerback. So like that would be an improvement. Don't think that he's got a great upside in terms of a top two cornerback for a team starter, but he would be worth bringing in if he was healthy enough. Like Craig said, he's not signed yet. There's got to be a reason for it. And at this point in time, it would almost have to be health.
All right. I got one last one if we're ready to close this thing out. And this is a great one. Red Georges. You can pick one Chief to challenge Joey Chestnut in the hot dog eating competition. Who do you go with? I know who I'm going with.
Lead it off.
You want me to lead it off? It's Andy Reid.
No, it was hot dogs, not hamburgers.
Oh, that's true. Andy Reid's a hamburger man. Yes.
Okay. I would have said Chris Jones 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Here's an off the ball.
I got one.
I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a different one, but
Don't do it.
I'd go Frank Clark.
Oh, okay.
Just because he's hyper competitive, and I feel like that competitiveness may drive him to be able to eat at a high level. Runner up. Well, let Maddie answer first. Never mind.
What with Justin Hamilton?
Okay, never mind. We're good. Runner up was going to be Andrew Wiley for me.
I wanted to go with Andrew Wiley. He'd be a fun one. Just offensive lineman put down food like no one's business. He would have been a guy, but Justin Hamilton looks like a guy that can throw back some hot dogs.
Yeah, I believe it.
He does. And we all know that it wouldn't be svelte, trim, handsome BJ Kissel to wrap it all back up again.
No, we got as many BJ Kissel references as we can drop in this show. It's critical. That's going to do it for this week's episode, the mailbag edition. We will be back later this week with another show. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching on the live stream. Thank you for asking your questions. We will catch you later.
Boy, we got Breland Speaks from the chat, guys.
That'd be a good one.
Prime time.
Usually smaller guys that dominate eating competitions, but there's just no way for us to predict a small guy that can eat a ton. Like those guys have weird stomachs and do weird things. I have no idea who that would be.
And Joey Chestnut's so slim. I mean, just, he's very thin human being. So
Who looks the most like a hot dog eating competitor on the Chiefs team, though?
Looks the most?
Yeah, who strikes you as a hot dog eating competitor?
Are we comparing him to Joey Chestnut there?
Yeah, and Matt Stoney, and anybody that's up there on the stage.
A second competitive eater?
Matt Stoney, he has a YouTube channel of where he does eating challenges, and it's incredibly impressive. The dude in 8 minutes ate 8 pounds worth of Philly cheesesteak.
Okay, give me an offensive skill player that looks most like a competitive eater. Let's go this way.
Garrett Dieter.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Kelvin, he's not on our roster anymore.
He kind of counts. He was here in the last 6 months.
That's lame. Give me.
I was gonna go with Ben Neiman.
Oh, that's a good one. I would say Marcus Kemp has that you're talking about the skinny competitive eaters. He looks most like a skinny competitive eater to me. I could see that string being just throwing down some serious doggage.
Yikes.
We got any more questions in the chat? Put them in here. We'll answer a few before we get out of here.
I think Adam Doherty asked this earlier, and I think I missed it. I'm sorry about that. I think it was him. He asked, what are your thoughts on Khalil McKenzie? Are they wasting time, money, and a roster spot? They're not wasting time, money, or a roster spot, but it's trending that direction. The developmental arc for him, I understand why they did it. I think it's a good idea, especially for a 6th-round pick. I'm not – and we'll see what he looks like in training camp. He looked like he had a long way to go last training camp. Yeah. And we'll just see – I think Maddie kind of alluded to it. The stuff you saw even on the franchise a couple weeks ago, it wasn't anything to write home about, which I know that's a weird thing to say and a weird thing to really stake too much on, but I'm not overly optimistic about his outlook moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the process. I just think that you can't be afraid to put that on the practice squad like the Chiefs seem to be. So from that aspect, I do think they're kind of wasting a roster spot a little bit. From everything we've seen from Khalil McKenzie to this point, he's a guy that should be on a practice squad, not on the 53.
They burned 2 roster spots last year for the entire season on Khalil McKenzie and Eric Berry. They played left-handed a little bit last year with their roster.
They did.
So, at some point,
we got do you trade Tyreek Hill or Chris Jones next year? I'll take this one. It's if you're trading one of them, it's probably Jones, because if somebody is asking for Tyreek Hill and willing to trade serious assets for Tyreek Hill, that probably means he's in the clear and that there's no real concerns about him long term. So if that's the case, then I think that it's Chris Jones, because I do think that they were going to pay Tyreek Hill this offseason before everything happened.
And if a team has no questions about Tyreek Hill's just like character or ability to stay playing in the NFL, it's going to be the Chiefs before anybody else. So if another team's out there feeling okay taking on everything that's going on with him, and there's no way the Chiefs wouldn't also be that, in my opinion.
Also, I think it would be hard for them to get the return that they'd want on Tyreek Hill if this scenario presented itself, because if it came to negotiations about trying to trade him or wanting to trade him or there being interested in trading him, the team trying to acquire him would still add caveats and poke holes with – they would use what's happening right now in all this situation as leverage, I would imagine. I think it would be hard for the Chiefs to get completely fair value or the most value that they could get for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Charlie Rogers, what beer do you want me to bring to our inevitable epic tailgate we're going to have at Arrowhead this year? Anything from Alma Mater Brewing in Kansas City. They're brand new, right next to the roastery. Plug. Go to the
Natter Days.
No, don't you? No, I will not drink a Natter Day.
Thanks, Evans.
I'm just trolling with you.
I will not at all.
Sneakily, those two answers were to really irritate Craig, which is always fun as well. So, yeah. Is that going to do it?
We got one question for you, Kent. I got one question to get off on here from Chris Albright. How many new Pat plays will Reed install in the regular season versus postseason Super Bowl run?
So, install for the regular season versus the postseason run. So, like, how many is he going to hold back?
I'm just reading questions, sir.
Okay, so like we talked a lot about this a little bit. Eric Stoner, I think, is the one who said it originally. Being able to show as little as you can week to week, but still light up the scoreboard and score enough to win football games is something that these teams do. And you saw that in the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs used some stuff, specifically with some of their rub concepts, that they had not used during the season. I think about the Sammy Watkins play. We didn't see anything like that specifically during the season. So they held some stuff back and they refrained and they want to pace themselves for 19 games ideally. And so you're not going to see everything unloaded in week one. You're going to see they're going to try to hold back as much as possible. I have no doubt Andy Reid's going to be able to build a repertoire and refrain from using it until big moments like the AFC Championship game and hold back. And I don't think they're going to have any issue doing that. I can't put a number on it. I can't put a specific – I really can't even put specific examples. We'll see what this year looks like. I thought – I will say this. When I was building the offense for Mahomes last year, I expected to see some things that I didn't from them. And – he's always keeping things fluid. Even the stuff we saw last year, everything that we saw last year isn't going to be the same because it never is every year. It's just like that.
Yep. Are we good, everybody? Is everybody good with shutting this thing down? I think we are.
I think so.
So
I do want to tell you, Kevin, the reason that I use crappy headphones and not a mic is because I'm very computer illiterate and I have a Chromebook. It is hard for me to figure out how to set up, how to record a podcast and do this live stream with one computer, since you cannot record like outside of an online recorder with my Google Chromebook. So my mic is set up to record the podcast while the headphones are just for the live chat thing. I'm sorry that it does not sound pleasant for that, but it's either the podcast gets poor audio quality or the live stream does, unfortunately.
Sacrifice the live stream. Love you guys, but
we do love you guys. We'll just meet you and hug you in person.
And you'll be surprised at how clear Maddie sounds in real life.
It's true.
Sometimes.
It's true. Sometimes, until he comes to Kansas City.
Usually my voice is actually gone. That has been a 2 for 2-er, so.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us once again. This was a blast, as always. Join us next week, 8:15, Tuesday night. We'll see you then. Bye.